Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for joining. Well, we have a lot of action in space, or is it? I know there's a lot of theories floating about whether it's really even happening or not, but at the same time, I've been noticing a lot of misinformation, disinformation, uh, just a lack of understanding. I don't really know how to classify it. It's not really even that important to me. But I'm not really here to convince you whether it's real or whether it's fake, but just to take an objective look at it, because I filmed about, I don't know, a good hour and a half of the footage just to see what kind of interesting things I could find in the footage. Um, and I want to say right off the bat, welcome to everyone. I'm personally not I'm a globe guy, but I have lots of flat earth friends, so please be kind in your comments. Uh, I welcome all views, but just be nice. That's all I'm saying. We can always be nice. We can respect other people's views, and uh, and that's really the important thing for me. So I'm going to do a shout out to One. I mispronounced your name last time I noticed on the playback. Bree, welcome to the chat. Throw some hearts off there in the chat to you guys. Uh, Claudio. Wow, that color is horrible tonight. I can barely see it. Jim, I'm a puddle duck is here. Shout out to all of you guys. Okay, so while I was looking at the different views of the incident that went down with the SpaceX rocket, I'm sitting there thinking, man, it looks fake, you know. I'll tell you right off the bat, it looks fake, but I've never been to space to know what it would really look like, you know. But I came up with this idea here. What if I could kind of correlate the footage here in this particular shot you see right here? I think I've made out that this is Australia. Hopefully we have some people from Australia in here that we can compare, or it's easier for people to know their own location, usually anyway. Let me see if I can go full screen here, and I want to scoot this over a tad because I want to fit in what else I have here. I thought at the same time, why don't I get some weather shots of what the cloud cover looks like at the same time. Not that they can't fake that too, like tie into the same thing, but this is what I came up with right here. Now we're looking at two different angles here. Let me scoot this over a little bit more here. You can see sort of this cloud that splits into two at this edge, and you can see this go up here. Over here you can see this cloud that splits into two, and then I believe this edge here that we're looking at is actually this edge here. And there's some more clouds up here and some more clouds up here and some clouds over here and some clouds over here. So it looks like maybe it's at least tapping into the same fakery. If it is fake, then the weather satellite images are fake too. But from what I was looking at here, I thought it looked pretty legit. That doesn't mean much, but except that they did a good job if it is faked. There's some other images I caught here that I thought were pretty interesting. This is actually, now it's spinning around here, the whole capsule is sort of moving around or whatever. But let me get to a few of these other images here. Now this one I noticed that you can see the moon in the background up here. I don't think it's there we go. That's the moon, and I caught it in a few other shots too. But if the moon looks like this, kind of hard to see, what would stars look like? Of course I think they would be even harder to see, because when I look at the moon at night, the moon looks pretty bright and the stars are harder to see than the moon is. And you can tell that it's lit up pretty good. Now exposure plays a big deal in this here, and you can see right here it's really toned down. You can't hardly see the red of the car anymore, and just as it came into the scene I actually cut it out, but you can see it right there getting darker. There we go again. We see those two cloud that splits. I believe this is Australia. I believe that's that little dip on it underneath. So I think like Antarctica would be over here technically, and over this way. Oh, let's see here. Wow, got some trolls in here. Let me just hop to here. So when we go over and we look at this image here, I don't know. You gotta wonder if it, what would it look like technically if it was. Let me stretch this over like this, because I don't know, it's beautiful, but even the perspective we're seeing right here, we're not really seeing the whole globe. This would just be part of it, because it's sort of, if this is indeed the real thing here, the globe rolls away from us. And so even though we're seeing a round circle, we're not seeing, you just can't see it unless you get super duper far away. So that's just how it works. As if we go over, let me go to this next image here. Now here's the sun, or the sun simulator, whichever you think it is there. Let me see here. Let's see. When you look, I like looking at the actual lens flare and seeing if you can figure something out by that, because sometimes you can see stuff in the flare that you can't see. I noticed that on when we were looking at the solar eclipse, but it does look fake. I'll give you that. Okay, go to the next thing here. Alright, so check this out. This is the one that I really wanted to point out, and because it's great, because you can tell with exposure how this works. You can see that see how you can read "don't panic" right at first, but then the camera adjusts down, and as soon as it adjusts to where you can hardly see anything at all, and this looks super bright, but like look at the white helmet, it's really dark and gray, and you can actually see these little flurries off of the, I guess whatever they're propelling is cold or whatever. But that being said, you can definitely see stars back there. Some of those aren't just little propellant flurries. So as I move around here, the ones that are moving together are stars. And as I get over into this area, see, those are stars all moving together over on the right. So you can definitely see stars. And then another thing I want to point out is, you see this blue line right here? That's the edge of the Earth. Now this was it only happened once during that whole flight, where it flew into the shadow of the Earth and the sun went behind the Earth, and that's why everything got really dark, and it only lasted for a few minutes and then it popped back out because of its trajectory. But watch it as it moves across here. This is the edge of the Earth. So everything to the left of this line is actually the Earth on the dark side. Now watch as I'm moving around here. Here we see the edge of the Earth here. So now these light spots you see on here are no longer stars. These are actually big cities. You see that? So we're seeing cities lit up in the night sky there from space. So these aren't stars, these are actually lit up from, you can tell some of them are bigger cities. Some of them look like Saturn shaped objects because I guess the heart of the city is bright and then it works out to the edge. So let's see here. Oh, they didn't even put it on slow mode. Slow mode here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Alright, so slow mode is activated. That should help you guys keep up. Okay, so that was that. Let me go on to the next one here. Okay, this one here, it's pretty short, but you can definitely see the stars. You can see a few stars in that shot. And a few stars. That actually switches two different camera angles. But it has to be, this was the only time I could see it the whole time was when it went in behind the, when the actual rocket went in the shadow of the Earth. So the sun was on the other side of the Earth, so it was pretty dark at that point. So let me go to the next shot here. Okay. Now check this out. This was pretty cool. This was still at that same time, but you can barely make out the man right here. This is the star guy or whatever. And what we're seeing right here is the light of the sun coming around the Earth a little bit. So it's sort of like the sun's about to come up is what we're seeing, but from space. And we're not looking right at the horizon. We're looking at a reflection of the horizon off of the windshield. It's really tough to figure this out at first, but you can see all the light you see is just from the light almost coming around the Earth, and you can barely make out the guys lighting up. So this provided a unique opportunity to really check out, what's going on here. And a lot of these flash anomalies you see here, that like twinkling stars, once the camera adjusts to let in as much light as possible, the ISO really opens up and it sort of introduces these little artifacts. I get it with my camera too, where it just sort of sparkles everywhere. Now check this out. You can actually check out the you can see over here the lights of the I don't know, like thunderstorms and stuff. Now this we're looking at in the background is the dark side of Earth, the night side of Earth. So watch closely and you can see little storms and stuff going off back there. It's pretty amazing, actually. It's a little difficult to make out, but you can definitely see. And then here the sun comes up for the car actually, and it's strange because I've had the same phenomenon with my drone, where you can the light changes as you increase the altitude just at the edge, because I've caught some drone footage right when the sun was about to set, and just bringing it back down to the ground, the colors change drastically like we see here. Plus the camera's adjusting a little bit too. Alright, here's another one where you can see somebody said space is fake. Space is fake. Everything's fake. That's why I don't have a problem. People say the sun's a simulator. I'm like, I think it's real within our construct, but the whole thing is a simulator, in my opinion. You know, hey, Ben Jojo, good to see you. Let's see. So that's you can see the moon floating around and across there in the background. I've got, I actually took that footage and enhanced it a little bit, and I zoomed in on it so you can really check it out. Now, I'm not looking to seek to prove flat or round, but, and that's another good point, flat earth style just brought up, and that's the satellites in space. And I'll show you an image to show you why that's sort of a moot argument. And like I said, I'm not here to prove it's a globe or that this isn't CGI, but a lot of people were saying there's no stars in it, and I saw stars. And here's another instance where I actually thought I caught a satellite on this image, but it turned out it's either a UFO or really not sure what it is. Okay, here's where it comes in at. Watch right here on the back of the car. You see this little dot right here? Follow that dot over and watch. Now it came from behind the car, so we know it's not something floating right in front of the camera. But then watch when it goes in front of the earth. You can see it in front of the earth. So it's in between the car and the earth. I'm not sure how big it is, how far away it is. I actually thought it could be a satellite at first, but when I enhanced it, it looks like it's actually tumbling. Now in this footage you can see I zoomed in right on that spot. Here it comes out from behind the car, and it looks like it's tumbling to me. And I tried to sort of keep it center frame as long as I could. It goes off the edge, but see, it looks like it's tumbling, and it definitely, you can see it in front of the earth there. It's wild. Let me look at it again here a little bit slower. It comes out, it's tumbling. And you can tell it's, like I said, it's somewhere between the cars, and you just can't tell the size of it or whatever. But I don't think it is a satellite because they don't tumble like that. But the other point I wanted to bring up with is someone had pointed out, now this is an animation, this is actual CGI right here. This is how it supposedly flew in the rocket and was deployed. The sides come off, bam, there's the car. Now, someone in another video was saying that it's fake because wouldn't they have shown the view at the front of the car looking back to look at the space guy, because you could see Earth behind, you could see the things come off and fly back to Earth. As you see, the car's really just slightly angled here, so Earth is underneath it. So taking that into consideration, the best view was the side view, just like they did in the CGI right here. The best view was from the side. And for those who missed the actual launch, this is what it was like. Now they showed, this is inside that capsule we just looked at, and it splits right here. Instead of in front like on the animation, it actually splits on the side. There it splits. Now you can see why this is a better view, because you get you know, sort of the side view. You get the guy up close, the car. Of course, they're wanting to sort of push the car. And then this is the front view. So you can see that stuff fell downward, not away like out of the back of the car. So you can see it's already out of view right there. So that was just someone's argument that it was fake because of the angle that they chose to use to show it. And could be fake, but that that was sort of a fallacious argument. Okay. Let me show this for a second. I want to pull up this other image right here because I think it's important to look at exactly why we don't see satellites. Now, keep in mind when they're launching this thing, they're not going to launch it right at some satellites. And here's a size comparison of how big these satellites are in space. Thanks for the subscription. Here's a comparison of what these satellites are in space. So imagine you've got thousands of cars parked around the equator and you take off in Florida, you know, raise everything off the ground a few miles or whatever, and then ask, why can't I see those cars all the way at the equator from Florida? You can see how ridiculous it is to expect to be able to see a hippopotamus or a VW bug that far away. We saw that one little object between the car and Earth and how difficult it was to see that, and we know it was, you know, much closer than where the satellites would have been. So of course they're not going to launch it right at the satellites and risk something going wrong and taking out a satellite. So I don't think we can expect to see any satellites at any time unless they're purposely. Even the one I watched today, they were launching a satellite, and even in the general area there was no satellites visible. They're just they're so small and space is so ginormous, you guys. I mean, we just wouldn't see it. And like I said, I'm not saying it's for sure real footage, that it's not CGI. I don't know, but a lot of the arguments people are saying, where are the satellites and all of this stuff is it's just not a really good argument to prove that it's fake. And like I said, the way that the weather satellites, the footage lined up with what we saw on the camera, that was a whole nother level of you know, having to line up the weather clouds. Not to say that wouldn't be easy, because it could all be tied into the same, could be pulling the same data from where I pulled the data to show you guys at that same time and superimposing it on a globe shape. So I'm not here to prove that the Earth is a globe. I'm only here to say that a lot of the information going on there is just doesn't fit with it's not a really good argument to say that everything that we see there is fake. Really cool footage though. If it is fake, they did a really good job at it, in my opinion anyway. And so the jury's still out. We'll just have to figure out if it you know, we'll know in due time. I don't feel like it's that big of a deal personally. I feel like it's all a simulation anyway, and that we only load in a section at a time, and it's always a flat section. So technically we'll always experience a flat Earth from our perspective, whether it's the whole thing's a globe or a big flat plane or whatever. But you know, I can understand. I think a lot of people should you shouldn't tie it into your worldview so much that, you know, it's got to be true or your religion isn't true or something like that. You got to stay flexible, I think. I think the more open-minded you are, the less you are to get fooled by things, because whether it's round or flat, there's definitely an agenda with trying to prove one or the other going on, right? Are they trying to convince us it's a globe? Are they trying to convince us it's flat? I don't know. I'd say there's more important things to be worrying about, to be honest with you. But I do love space. I've always loved space. I've always wanted to go to space, and it's a cool thing. So I did enjoy the footage, whether it was real or not. So with that, you guys, I appreciate you hopping in here. I love each and every one of you, even you trolls. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.